This is the Verify Testing UX Research and Product Sync for September 16th is the day. And as Nadia was saying, I have a lot of things in the agenda, so I'm just going to go ahead and start off. Just to sync on our 3-year vision project that we're working on. Juan, I set up time for us later today to talk through the 1 year and do a recording of those as we start to think about the 3-year. I think a lot of what you've already done in the design, which is awesome, kind of leads into our 3-year vision pretty easily.
Gotcha.
So from here's where the problem is to potentially, and then here's a fix for it. I think that's a good step as we think about 3-year, but we'll talk about that more later when we do the recording, and then we'll post it back.
Okay, so yeah, my reply to that is that I'm working on those kind of like fixed type of solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Like I basically am wireframing on like the merge request page and how that will look like. Cool. And my last point was that I was talking about a little bit about that vision, but we're gonna talk about that later maybe, or I don't know. But my point was like, I may have some ready by today, but I may have like everything ready by tomorrow. So I'm wondering if you wanna, I mean, if you still wanna record that today, that video today, I'm fine. Yeah.
I think we can record it even as a work in progress.
Okay.
For purposes of the 3-year vision work that we're doing as a CI group.
Yeah.
Or as a Verify group rather, and that'll work for that. You and we can iterate again further if we want on the 1-year ones for the other purpose that we were starting with. Hey, here's where we're going in a year, putting that onto the direction page, that sort of thing.
All right, perfect. So yeah, I'll update the issue with my work in progress with the other ones sometime today before that meeting.
Great. And then I just wanted to talk through 13.5 and 13.6 design, just looking forward to 13.6 and 13.7, making sure that we have design items for implementation items. It looks like the big ones are there. The code quality in the diff and the MR, there's a design item for that already. Dimitri had done work on this a couple of years ago when this kind of first kicked off and the issue was written. But I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to look at that, review it, make sure the user experience matches up with our current expectations, et cetera,
totally.
et cetera. So that design item is in 13.5, and then we'll be looking to do implementation, I think, in 13.7.
Okay.
So we left some space there for a tech evaluation and iteration on that for the team.
I assume there's likely updates that we gotta do.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. The other thing is that design doesn't take into account, at least I don't remember it taking into account the test coverage data being there. And so now we have a potential for test coverage and code quality being there, or just code quality being there. And so we want to make sure we account for both of those in that diff MR view.
Okay.
That's the only use case I want
to
call out.
I just had the thought that we're shipping that community contribution, and I'm wondering, like, that's on that same page, right?
Yeah, it's in that same spot.
Yeah.
So how do we get those 2 bits of information in there at the same time when you potentially have a line that has test coverage, doesn't have test coverage, it has coverage report data, and then it also has a code quality violation? How do we represent?
Right. Yeah. No, that's gonna be interesting for sure.
Yeah. It's gonna be like super valuable though to go for a developer or a code reviewer to be able to see there's test coverage here and there's a problem with code quality, or there's no test coverage and a code quality problem. We can fix both of those things just by fixing this line.
Yeah, totally. Nadia is asking if there's a URL for that issue.
Yeah, I will hunt that up real quick here and drop it back into the agenda.
Thanks. We want to see how old is the issue, etc.
Yeah, sorry about that.
If it was designed by Dimitri for testing, it's pretty old.
Yeah, right. It was before there was a testing group even. So All right, so the design item is there, and Nadia, I believe the design item links to the implementation item, which is where the initial design was stored. So then while we're talking about code quality, the other thing I wanted to mention was we have a code quality severity displaying that data that there's no design for, I don't believe, that we should take a look at creating a design item for that, or using that item for the design in 13.5. Right now it's tentatively scheduled for 13.6, but obviously we could move that out if we don't have a design or UX wrapped up for it.
Uh,
I'll be right back.
Sure.
Yeah, James warned in the beginning of the meeting that he has to put his daughter to the class.
Oh.
And it's an online class, because I thought for a second that he is like in the school or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, you could hear that.
All right,
it
I'm
was
back.
his daughter asking something.
Yeah. It's about time for somebody else's meeting to start. We have dueling Zoom going on in our house today.
So yeah, the answer is yes. We can pull this one into design for 13.5. I have no issue with that.
Cool. Let me find the implementation issue real quick. 13 code quality severity rating. Ooh. This is another issue that Dimitri wrote, but did not provide any design for us. You know, and it's this is a 4-digit issue number, so it must be a really old one.
That's pretty old, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so that one is in there as well. And then in 13.6, we're going to start looking at the test history result for projects, I hope. Actually, in 13.7, rather, it would be when the implementation happens. That gives us a couple of months to get feedback from users on how that's going and think about architecture so that we can leave that MVC in place on the pipelines and the MRs, but build architecture so that we can create the project view of a history. So that view that we already did the solution validation on, I think that is all good and tight. I just wanted to double check that we feel good about that. And then we can work on iteration on pipeline and the MR views as these things trickle out and we start to get feedback.
Let me think about that one for a minute. Yeah, I think we're good. I think I think we should just iterate on top of what we did, and I think what we did addresses the baseline. And if we ship that, we're gonna get a lot of thoughts from people, and we can just start seeing data if how people interact with that, you know, in general.
Yep, cool. All right, so that's everything I had for design. Any other design work that's in flight or coming up that we should talk about, Juan?
Yeah, no, I just had that point at the end about the vision mocks or like the vision wireframes. I'm gonna be sharing that update. I mean, I'm gonna be sharing more things throughout the week, but before the meeting today, I'll share my work in progress for the fix part of it. And yeah, it's fun. There's a lot of things that I have been researching, learning a lot about the space. As I told you yesterday, like even like automated fixing of bugs, it's like something that sounds like the you know, like the perfect experience, but it's not something that it's real yet for anyone. You know, it's like a very so. I think we gotta be more creative. Like in 3 years, how testing is gonna look like. I think what we gotta do is like try to start bridging the gap between what we believe should be the ideal testing experience with what we could do at that moment. You know, which is probably triaging issues, identifying areas of concern, flaky tests, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think identification of flaky tests. I think we could even we could probably start getting into like helping augment code coverage or test coverage.
Yeah.
Where if you have, I mean, just like some really basic, if you have some really basic unit tests, and then based on what we know about all of the open source projects that are out there that also have test coverage, we can start to look at and say, this method looks like these 45 other methods that we've seen that have tests. These tests are good tests. We're going to build one for you and put it into an MR. And then you can start to, like, that could be a really cool up tier feature. So.
Yeah, and the other, yesterday, the idea that I shared with you about the flaky tests, I remember seeing that somewhere. I don't remember exactly what tool was it, but it's like that idea of like you give a threshold to the tool and like it retries multiple times until like it says like, you know, I think it's broken for good, you know?
Yeah, Nadia, that idea was that if as we start to identify flaky tests and have history, that a user could go in and mark a test as flaky, and then we would have another stage run as part of a pipeline, where you run your pipeline, run your full suite of tests. Anything that's failed, that's been identified as flaky, we rerun, so that you could potentially get a green pipeline, even if you had failures, because those tests might just pass next time.
Oh, that's cool. So did I understand correct that a user could go and like manually mark a test as flaky?
Yeah, so as we have in the project, we would have that full list of your tests, and you could say, oh, these are failing, but just intermittently it's a flaky test because of some sort of infrastructure downstream or some race condition or something we're just not going to fix right now, and we're not seeing problems in production. It's not a great test, but it shouldn't hold us back. So you can mark that as flaky and then figure out if it's flaky, rerun it, it's flaky, ignore it. There's a bunch of different options there, I think, so that you could then get, even with failures, but they're failures that you know you're just going to skip anyway, get to a green pipeline.
Awesome. Sounds cool.
Yeah, Juan had that idea, and I thought that was really, really great.
Have you watched that from any of the competition, from any of the competitors or something like that, Juan? Or that was just like...
No, I saw that. So I saw that in a completely unrelated developer tool. I don't remember was it, and there was like this idea of like retry these like several times and like until you hit a threshold, then like it stops retrying. And then I researched more a little bit like how people deal with flaky tests. And like it seems that what many people are doing is like we know like 1.5% of our tests are flaky, so we're not gonna fix them. We're just gonna retry them until they pass, you know. Well, I mean, that sounds so unintuitive, but I think that's the reality of many people like in the industry. They actually know that they're gonna pass eventually, so they just retry them manually until they pass.
Yep, 100%.
Cool.
All right. So then I just wanted to touch base on, and this is more of a, so Lori, when she comes back and looks at the agenda, can see where we're at with things. So we have 3 research items in flight right now. Code testing and coverage, jobs to be done. The survey is created. Recruiting will start next week for that. I do not anticipate us getting this done. This is actually the end of October. The CMS part of it done by the end of October, given where we're at with the jobs to be done part of it. I will start the recruiting and the research, or the recruiting issue, so that we can start recruiting potential CMS interview subjects next week even, hopefully. But anticipate it's going to take some time to get to our survey number in jobs to be done, and then we can do those interviews. So it's going to stretch into November, and we're okay with that. I just wanted to set expectations with everybody. And I'll do the same on the product side about we're not going to move the maturity of this category in this quarter like we thought. So that being said, we are going as fast as we can on the code quality jobs to be done, so that we can, in January, hopefully move that maturity up to the next level. And so we'll have a code quality CMS research project coming up as well too. But right now we're in the jobs to be done part of that. And that's, the team is brainstorming And then we'll move into the same thing that we're doing for code testing and coverage right now of, are these the right jobs for the category? Are these the jobs that you were doing?
Awesome. That sounds cool. Any challenges or any roadblocks that you feel like you need support with or help with?
It was just understanding the process and then getting the survey put together. There was just a little bit of a delay last week. And then with our recruiter being out this week for a conference, I mean, it's just, I know they're juggling a lot of balls as well. You can't, yeah. I mean, nothing we could have prevented or that, or I mean, we could have prevented it if we'd have been a little more proactive about it, but it's a learning experience. I'll take it as that.
Yeah. How was the process so far? Was it like smooth or like?
So far it's okay. It does feel like there's a lot of overhead just because I think I'm creating duplicative issues. I have one issue in our testing project that's tracking the whole thing. I then have a research issue. Hold on, I gotta step out of the room for just a second.
Sure.
Sorry.
No worries.
Interrupting another meeting that my daughter is on. Me over here, yap, yap, yap. But
one thing that I was thinking that because category maturity scorecard 3 is shipping, I don't know, it's coming soon. Should we just wait for that? I mean, that's supposed to happen very soon, right, Nadia?
I do not know, Juan.
They said 1 month.
1 month.
Like they said 1 month, like last week, so 3 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know how urgent is that. Like honestly, like I don't think we are expecting like a huge changes. I don't know. Maybe Lori is the best to say on that. But honestly, like I would say, if we feel like we are going good with that, like I probably wouldn't maybe not delay. I don't know. It's up to you. If we can wait, sure. But otherwise, I think the second version is still fine as far as I feel.
Okay.
So it's more like up to you both.
I mean, so if you can share that MR with me, that'd be great. Of the next iteration on the process. I don't know where we're at in the life cycle of this. It was either about to change or had just changed when we did the scorecard for accessibility. So I don't know if we're
change. When we did that one, it was the first version ever.
Okay.
And now we're working on the second version, and now there's gonna happen a third version. So I guess that the iteration is like a response of how like people are perceiving it and like the things we're finding bottlenecks. That's why my thought was like, if we wait for 3, then we might have a way smoother experience, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
So I just attached the doc, but I didn't have the access then. I still don't have it. So there is no MR yet. Even it's just like a document where Adam is collecting some thoughts around the CMS version 3. So yeah, this is why I was a little bit like, okay, if we don't even have MR, maybe that's pretty far. So I don't know. Lori, however, said that it's coming in 1 month, like Juan said. So I don't know.
Okay. Well, I mean, if that's the process at the time, then great. And if it's not, then we'll just use the current. Kind of every time we start one of these, I just go back to the handbook and say, what's the process now? So
yeah. No, I mean, as long as it doesn't change a lot, I think we're good, you know?
Yeah.
If it's like a complete revamp, but I don't think that's gonna be the case. I think they're just like, like fixing small things. I think we're good. I think the next step that we should start thinking about is preparing the testing scenarios.
Yep.
Just kind of like get ahead a little bit of that. So maybe we should.
Yeah, I think we'll be able to do that once we have the jobs to be done.
Yeah. So yeah, just kind of getting ahead a little bit of that, so we are aware, so I can help with that as well.
Yep, sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else?
I think we're good.
Awesome. All right, well, I'm going to go try to be quiet back in our classroom space so I don't get yelled at by the teacher again. And everyone have a great day.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Bye.
James. Thanks,
Cheers.
Juan. Bye.